Hey everyone, Rick Albert with America Real Estate. Let's give you my opinion of Redfin's top 10 predictions for 2022. Let's get started. Okay, so Redfin has a lot of data. They have a lot of data because people are searching on their site. They have a lot of data because they do have some agents in different parts of the country that can also provide some feedback. Either way, they've come up with their top 10 predictions for 2022, and I wanted to give you my initial thoughts on that topic. First and foremost, mortgage rates will rise to 3.6%, bringing price growth down to earth. So here's kind of what they're saying. When you qualify for a loan, based off your income, your debt, your credit score, and your cash on hand, they look at it as your total debt can be, let's call it $5,000. That's $5,000 for property taxes, insurance, your payments, which is split between your interest and your principal, and HOA dues, or if there's any other liens, that sort of deal. So let's say $5,000. Out of the mortgage portion, the principal is directly correlated to the price, but the interest rate can fluctuate what you qualify for. So the higher the interest rate, the more of that pie out of that 5,000 is taken up. Therefore, the principal is smaller and you can afford less house. Now, please keep in mind, keeping it below 4% is still a phenomenal deal. Our parents, grandparents, ask them what their interest rates were. Chances are they were in the double digits. So we're still doing pretty good. Now, how is that going to affect Los Angeles real estate? Probably not as much as you would hope or think. Because we have so many different diverse neighborhoods, people can just kind of shift. Hey, I can't afford Northridge, so I'm going to go to Reseda. I can't afford Granada Hills, I'm going to go to Mission Hills. I can't afford the West Side, so I come over to the Valley. So you have different options while still being in the general metropolitan area. There have been multiple sources that have all cited that they do intend interest rates to go up, at least 3 times, but still say below 4%. So is this a good thing or bad thing? It's somewhat neutral. If you're a seller, it probably just means less offers, right? Because it's just a slightly smaller buyer pool, assuming people aren't migrating to your neighborhood. And from a buyer's perspective, if you're like, ooh, lower prices, it's like, meh, right? Because on the big scheme of things, we live our lives on a month-to-month basis. What are my monthly payments going to look like? In this case, it's going to look like the same no matter what. So who's really going to get hurt? Probably people at the lowest tier, right? So if you're a home buyer who can't afford one neighborhood but can go to another, great. But at some point, someone's at the very bottom, and they're probably going to have to move out of county, Ventura County, Riverside, even parts of Orange County. Just kind of depends. But yes, I do agree. I think interest rates are going to go up. They were so freaking low before. It's kind of like what goes down must come up, kind of the opposite of what we're used to. The second one is new listings will hit a 10-year high, which will hardly make a dent in the ongoing supply shortage. I also think that's accurate, and there's a lot of reasons why. First of all, just so everyone's clear, it's a good time to sell, right? Just like it's a good time to buy because interest rates are low, there's great loan programs, it's a good time to sell. There's still a huge buyer pool. I just launched a listing recently, and we got a total of 10 offers. So it's still generally a good time. But the question is, why would there be more inventory? Well, forbearance is down, right? It's down to below 1 million across the United States, I might add. So it's not just 1 million just in Los Angeles. But some of those people are going to be forced to sell. I actually had a buyer buy a place where the sellers were in that position. But because a lot of them are equity rich, they're going to use that cash to go buy a place cash elsewhere, or maybe they're going to go rent, whatever it might be. So you're going to get some of that kind of trickling in. You do also have baby boomers who are really hitting retirement age, especially on the older side of the baby boomer generation, where they just can't physically and maybe even emotionally, and maybe in some cases financially, afford to upkeep a house, right? Especially for those that had these big houses where they had 3, 4, 5 kids, and they're like, well, I don't need a 5,000 square foot house anymore. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of movement in that respect. And again, when you have a lot of equity in your home, why not in some cases? If you don't need to be in that home, you can downsize, put a huge down payment down on the next place. Now, let's go to number 3. Prediction number 3 says rents will increase by 7%. Just like on the selling and buying side, it's about supply and demand. So yeah, supply is still low. Builders cannot keep up with the demand of tenants. Now, let's take it a step further, because you can't just rely on builders to create units. What about the mom and pop landlords? Well, areas like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, where there's heavy rent control, some landlords are tired of it. I mean, seriously, their tenants weren't paying rent, but yet LA sent out their notices saying you still have to pay your rent control fees, which has gone up since prior to the pandemic. So if you're a landlord, especially those mom and pops, right, let me get this straight, I didn't get paid rent. Yes, there's rent relief, that's gonna take months to get that, but yet you still had the audacity to charge me, see you later, LA. And they're gonna start investing elsewhere, or just not invest altogether. They might sell their units here, or they might just keep them just to deal with them. Either way, that's not bringing new units to the city. With low supply, high demand comes rising prices. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually higher than 7% in San Francisco's, New York's, and LA's of the world. Let's go ahead and go to prediction number 4. Home buyers relocate to affordable cities like Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania over the Sun Belt. Duh. So as people can't afford somewhere, they have to go somewhere else. So yes, Columbus, Ohio, you can get a house, even a duplex, for under $300,000 easy. So if you have the equity in LA, you can probably pay cash there. We have clients where I have one sold his house, he's buying in Tennessee, cash. So they're going to these other markets that are much more affordable for them, especially in their equity-rich properties here. On a micro level, we're still seeing the same thing. Buyers on the west side who can't afford the west side need to come to the San Fernando Valley. I sold a condo years ago in Sherman Oaks, had high HOA dues. We couldn't get a buyer, so I started advertising to agents on the west side. I got 3 offers, list price, got it sold. So, and even then, it's going to the different counties, Ventura County, Riverside County. Basically, people are just migrating to wherever they can afford. Because we all know the benefits of home ownership. I don't need to go into that, but because people know that, they want to be able to achieve that. And to achieve that, they have to stick within their budgets. So yes, I totally believe that's happening. Number 5, people will vote with their feet, moving to places that align with their politics. Makes sense, especially because you have areas like Texas, that's a red state, but Austin, which is a very blue city. So if someone's like, well, I don't want the income tax, I can't afford these more expensive areas, I'm gonna move to Texas, but I don't believe in a lot of those politics around it, but this city meets that requirement, they might do that. You know, it seems to me at least, and that was no intention of me wearing blue, by the way, that has nothing to do with my political preference, but you know, people tend to attract by tribe. So if they know that their tribe is a certain area, they're gonna migrate towards it. Makes sense, and it does seem to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, do you think that the divide between red and blue just keeps getting bigger? It certainly seems like we're getting to more extremes and less moderates, or at least no one's willing to admit it. Let's go on to the next prediction. Condo demand will take off. I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought it took off like a year or 2 ago, but whatever. Yes, it makes sense. As we get into more dense cities, affordability makes a play in this. It's just, I can't afford $1 million house, but I can afford a $400,000 condo, and I get great walkability. It's a great starter point, even for house hackers. I know there's some hesitation because of the HOA. Yes, HOAs can be difficult. I've had difficulty with them on one of my rentals, but in the big scheme of things, it's easier to pay the $400-ish a month than it is to spend $15,000 to replace a roof. So there are different ways to navigate through it. And of course, we have a lot of the millennial buyers who need to sell their first home, which might have been a condo, equity rich, again, sell the condo, get into a house, right? I'm selling a house now where the buyers are actually coming from a condo. So that happens, it's a real thing. Home buyers will take climate risks seriously. So I think there's actually 2 parts to this. I think one is, yes, they want to be more environmentally conscious, right? That's the solar panels, the electric car chargers for their, for their Teslas or Mustangs or whatever vehicle they have. Some people just want to be more environmentally aware. That's true. There's also the other aspect. fires, like the wildfires in Malibu. You have flood zones in Florida. You have all these different things that actually affects their bottom line, not just on the repair side, but more importantly on the insurance side. So take wildfires, for example, in the Hollywood Hills or even in areas like Malibu. Some carriers just won't touch it, right? They just like, I'm not going to insure in this area. Therefore, the government has to step in this case, California, which is called the California Fair Plan, where they're willing to say, hey, look, I'm going to cover coverage up to $3 million worth of repairs, which it's expensive to build in LA, as we all know, but that's kind of where they're coming with. So in terms of, home buyers will take climate risk seriously, yeah, I think so. Especially if interest rates go up, prices still continue to rise because inventory is still going to be low. This is only going to affect that $5,000 pie or however much they make. So yes, I agree with that. Housing policy will become central to political battles about climate change. This will be interesting, right? Because the government, like California has a California Fair Plan, but like most insurance carriers, they don't really want to cover that damage, right? So it's going to be difficult and they're going to regulate accordingly. So for example, they might change building codes to be more fire resistant or more wind resistant or more flood resistant, right? So take Florida. I mean, maybe it's already building code, I don't know, but I would imagine at some point in time, they're gonna be like, okay, to build new homes in Florida, you have to put in a sump pump, which is like a little device to pump the water away from the house. Those are the types of things that we probably will start seeing that make sense. Practical basis, get it. Problem is, you put in a sump pump for a few $1,000s, it's not like a buyer's going to pay a premium for it. So it puts builders in a tough spot when it comes to their margins tightening. Now, if you're thinking, well, I don't care, builders make tons of money. How much money they make is irrelevant. What is relevant is it's going to cost them the same to install that sump pump in a $500,000 home versus a multi-million-dollar home. So they're more likely to shift towards luxury building, which we're already seeing, and this is part of the reason why. Now, iBuyers will focus on perfecting a niche service instead of market domination. So the big headline was Zillow iBuying. They shut down the program because they were losing millions. They were losing thousands of dollars per transaction. Why? Because they paid top dollar when they shouldn't have. Like literally, they were paying market value in the hopes to ride the appreciation train to get more money. That didn't work. I've seen homes from Open Door sit on the market. Even here in our own market, I go through, I'm like, this is still sitting on the market. And other homes that are similar are selling for more money. But regardless, whole nother discussion, they're going to have to become more particular on what they buy, which is what most investors do. There is no shotgun approach that's going to work. So what could they focus on? If I were them, they have the money, they have the capital, and they have the data. They should be looking after homes that cash buyers may not even want, the average home buyer can't compete with, right? So maybe there's a home with some major lien issues, major construction issues. Go after that niche because the average person can't buy that. So you have this huge, and you can just be laser focused, right? This is my specialty. These are the types of homes. I can deal with the tax lien. I can deal with this. I can deal with that. That's a specific niche that they could go into. Of course, we'll see, are they gonna make a huge takeoff like, initially Zillow did? Maybe, but if the other iBuyers are looking, they're like, they failed, let's learn from them. This is probably what they learned. And number 10, the Department of Justice will crack down on how real estate agents are paid. So, interestingly enough, over the years, the percentage of the commission hasn't really fluctuated that much. Now, there is no set standard. Let's be very clear, there is no set standard. If a seller is willing to say, fine, realtor, I'll pay you 20% to bring me a buyer, they can pay 20%. If they want to do 1%, they can, or somewhere in between. Typically, it's between, usually, we'll call it 4% to 6%, somewhere in that range. And that would be split between the agent that represents the seller and the agent that brings the buyer. So before you start thinking, I'd love to make 5 to 6% per property, it doesn't work that way, it's split. And then we can even dig even deeper on how that portion's split. Regardless, there's a lot of issues around disclosures. How much are they getting paid? Does the general public know? You can see on some public websites that actually show you what the compensation is for the broker. Yeah, they probably will because they're getting pressure. On a practical basis, I don't go into companies and say, I need to see an entire roster of your staff and how much they're getting paid. How much we get paid just is what it is. It's how our business is run. It's how other businesses are run on how they're getting paid. So it's not like we're a nonprofit. We are here to make money, and how we run our business is our business. But regardless, will they crack down? Probably. They probably will. Now, keep in mind, Redfin is also a brokerage, and they're also an iBuyer. So for the last 2 points, they probably have some reason to post these as their predictions, but we won't go into that because we don't have all the data. So there you have it. We'll see ultimately what happens in 2022. I know that whatever happens, I'm going to be hustling for my clients. That's all that matters. I'm going to do my thing. I made a video on that months ago when Zillow was really ramping up on buying homes, and all these agents are freaking out. What do I do? They're going to hurt my business. It's like, they're going to do their thing. I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to kick ass regardless of what everyone else does. So comment below. Let me know if you agree. I'd love to get your thoughts. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, share with your friends. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day.